Tonight, crisis in India.
Lockdowns across the country amid a surge in cases of COVID-19.
This as the CDC predicts a light at the end of the tunnel in the United States.
And a prayer for the nation.
Whatever are our differences, they fade to insignificance.
On this National Day of Prayer.
And families reunited. After forced separations at the border, migrant families find each other again under President Biden.
Plus, the rift in the Republican Party.
All this and more on Faith Nation.
India suffocating under the rising tide of COVID cases. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Tonight, the humanitarian crisis in India is worsening as cases of COVID-19 continue to surge.
The record daily infections in the world's second most populous country tragically falls along with a shortage in medical supplies. CBN News senior international correspondent George Thomas has the story.
With coronavirus infections in the U.S. dropping to their lowest levels in 7 months, India hit another grim milestone today, breaching the 400,000 mark for the second time. The record daily infections soaring as demand for medical oxygen jumped sevenfold.
Because of the demand for oxygen, there is no doubt the black marketing, and the price have gone up like 300 to 400 times each. But the people are desperate to get oxygen.
Operation Blessings, Victor Emmanuel is part of the team delivering 150 critical cylinders of medical oxygen to the Philadelphia Ambala Mission Hospital.
Now by Operation Blessing providing the oxygen to the hospital, we can treat close to 950 people over a span of 2 weeks. So that's a great blessing to the patients that are coming to the hospital.
The hospital, founded by an American missionary in 1887, is a designated COVID center treating hundreds of patients. The hospital's director telling CBN News that the nationwide lack of oxygen only compounds the crisis.
When the patients come with a low oxygen saturation, it is really a problem. Like we have to refuse the patients to get into the hospital.
Dr. Sadiq says the virus is devastating many Indian lives, including many Christians. More than 230,000 have died here from COVID so far, and experts warn deaths may double in coming weeks. Dr. Sadiq says the hospital is more than just a place to treat patients.
When the patient comes, every day we are praying 3 or 4 times for the patients, and when they come, they feel that there is a divine power working in the hospital.
India's health experts welcoming President Biden's move to waive COVID vaccine patents, allowing countries like India to boost their supply. Emmanuel urging people around the world to remember India during this time.
There is a lot of suffering all around. And I urge you to please pray for the nation of India, for healing, for God's comfort and peace.
George Thomas, CBN News.
And joining us now are David and Greta Landis, an American couple living and working in India. David, Greta, first off, we hope you guys are well, and of course we want you to stay safe. But first off, can you describe what are things like in New Delhi right now?
I'm going to start crying. Pretty terrifying, actually. Everyone kind of feels like anytime you step out of your house, you could, get sick. I'm really emotional, sorry. It's been a long few weeks. It's scary to leave because so many people have gotten sick. I mean, so many people we work with are sick, and so many people, that we, particularly the Indian nationals, had family members die, and lots of people are sick. It feels like half of our work population is sick.
Greta, David, clearly a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. Greta, I understand that you teach 3rd grade, and David, you're the director of student services at the Embassy School in New Delhi. How has the crisis, David, affected the Embassy School directly?
Well, we've moved classes back to full-time online schooling, which was a big disappointment to us. We were in a hybrid mode before this last wave of COVID hit here in Delhi. But our faculty here are really incredible.
We wish you well. Be safe. David and Greta, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
thank you.
Well, as the crisis in India continues, some hopeful news here in the United States. New projections from the CDC show high vaccination rates and continued social distancing measures could bring a sharp decline in cases by July. Today, in a virtual conference hosted by the Vatican, Dr. Anthony Fauci said his main concern is new variants of COVID-19, adding that there's still a general lack of understanding about the virus.
How could it possibly be that the same virus that's killed 570,000 people in this country is a virus in which more than half the people don't ever get any symptoms? I mean, you could say, well, they're young, they're healthy, but that's not an adequate explanation. There's something there, something that we don't know about the pathogenesis.
And all Americans over the age of 16 are now eligible to sign up for a vaccine. You can find a vaccination site near you by going to vaccines.gov.
Well, today, the first Thursday of May, marks the 70th annual National Day of Prayer. This year's theme calls on Americans to pray for God to pour out his love, life, and liberty. In keeping with tradition, President Biden proclaimed the first Thursday of May a National Day of Prayer. Although the proclamation makes no mention of God, Mr. Biden did acknowledge the good fortune of Americans to exercise their convictions freely and to come together in prayer to provide hope for the work ahead. Former Vice President Mike Pence shared his own prayer for every American to unite as one nation under God.
On this National Day of Prayer, whatever are our differences, they fade to insignificance as each one of us appeals for God's grace and his blessing.
Our viewers can see the live broadcast from 8 to 10 Eastern Time tonight at cbnnews.com and across our social media platforms.
Well, former President George W. Bush is calling for bipartisanship across the board on immigration. Bush 43 taking a gentler tone on the issue today at the George W. Bush Institute in Dallas.
That's right, Jenna. This as the first migrant family separated under President Trump's zero-tolerance policy are reunited. Senior Washington correspondent Tara Mergener has more.
Mr. Bush is pushing for an immigration policy that tones down rhetoric, shows respect for migrants, and will lead to reform.
It's become too politicized.
Bush, also a former Texas governor and still resident, has long praised America's immigrant history. One of his regrets is not passing any meaningful reform during his presidency. His 2007 bill that would have created a pathway to citizenship and also tougher border security stalled in the Senate.
To me, this is not only a character issue of the country, it's an issue of our character of our country, but also it's an economic issue. We benefit economically when people come.
Meanwhile, the Biden administration is reuniting families separated under President Trump's stricter immigration laws. Tears of joy as a mother from Honduras hugs her teenage sons. Mabel was sent back to her home country after entering the U.S. illegally. The Ortizes, also one of at least 4 families back together again. After 2 years in detention, officials deported Sandra back to Mexico without her son Brian.
Feels like a dream. Like I was in the car and I was just like, this is finally happening. And I'm really going to be reunified with her after all these times.
These reunions mark the first success of the administration's Family Reunification Task Force. So far, it's identified more than 1,000 families that remain separated. Meanwhile, unaccompanied children keep coming to the U.S., with the Border Patrol picking up about 19,000 in March. That's the largest monthly number ever recorded, and a major test as Biden reverses Trump's hardline immigration policies. Homeland Security says the reunited families will be granted a humanitarian parole status, allowing them to remain in the U.S. while more permanent options are explored. More families are expected to be reunited soon. In Washington, I'm Tara Mergener, CBN News.
Thanks, Tara. Well, hopeful signs of an economic recovery tonight. The U.S. jobless claims hit a new pandemic low. Layoffs slowly down as COVID-19 restrictions continue to lift across the country, leading to new weekly jobless claims below 500,000 for the first time since March of 2020. Unemployment filings fell to 498,000 last week, according to the Labor Department, a drop of more than 92,000.
Well, joining us now is Mark Hamrick, Senior Economic Analyst and Washington Bureau Chief at Bankrate. Mark, always great to have you. You know, more good signs of an economic recovery, but some major blips on the radar along the way. Mark, when will we be at a point when we can breathe easy?
Well, first of all, these numbers speak to the broader situation, but this has been a unique situation where many people have done just fine during this economic downturn. Obviously, millions of people continue to struggle. So I think that the continuing theme of improvement in the economy is no doubt could be viewed as an answer to prayers. We see this new unemployment claims falling below 500,000. 4 straight week of improvement, by the way. And we still have 3.6 million Americans receiving unemployment benefits through the traditional programs administered by states, and yet 16.2 million receiving some form of unemployment benefit. Those are still highly elevated. We need to get way below those to get back to anything approaching normal.
Yeah, Mark, though, is the worst still yet to come? We want to talk about inflation. Billionaire Warren Buffett now sounding the alarm, saying his company is raising prices because other companies are raising prices on them. You know, inflation spiking to 2.6% last month, nearly a whole percentage point up from February, and plans to spend trillions more on investments for the Biden agenda. Mark, does this concern you too?
Well, I would say if we want to list the things that could be a risk for the economy and the financial markets, sustainable or sustained inflation is among the chief concerns. But it is far from a good bet that we will have lasting inflation. We've seen supply constraints in our economy really off and on over the last year. Think about that crazy demand for paper products that we had at the early onset of the lockdown. But the system resolved those things, and those supplies are now plentiful. And so I think between technology, globally connected markets, and the abundant supply still of labor, even though some employers are having difficulty finding the workers they want or at least hiring them. I would not want to bet against the Federal Reserve in our country, which right now has the take that inflation will not be long lasting, but merely this is part of the reopening where things are resetting back to a new normal.
All right, Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. We always appreciate your insights. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
And coming up, a rift in the Republican Party. What that means for the GOP and former President Trump.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN News Watch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN News Watch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. Whoa! It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Welcome back. The split in the Republican Party could come to a head as early as this week with a vote to oust the third-ranking leader in the GOP conference, Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
The rift signals former President Trump and his MAGA agenda are coming out on top. CBN News chief political analyst David Brody has the story.
If anyone had any doubt whether or not Donald Trump was in firm control of the Republican Party, look no further than what is about to happen to Liz Cheney, the GOP's third-ranking leader. She not only voted to impeach Trump, but also challenged his claims of voter fraud in the 2020 election. It looks like she'll most likely lose her position next week.
Yes, definitely. That'll be something we'll be taking care of in our conference next week. This is something that myself, along with members of the House Freedom Caucus and others, we had voted to remove her earlier this year. But the vote didn't pass, and she remained our chairwoman. However, now you can see that the rest of the conference is ready to make the move.
Cheney's not going down without a fight. In a Washington Post op-ed Wednesday, she writes, "The Republican Party is at a turning point, and Republicans must decide whether we are going to choose truth and fidelity to the Constitution. We must be brave enough to defend the basic principles that underpin and protect our freedom and our democratic process. I am committed to doing that no matter what the short-term political consequences might be." Former Trump senior advisor Stephen Miller tells CBN News Cheney is out of step with the base.
I can tell you that it is outrageous the way that Liz Cheney continues to attack not only our president, our members, our voters, our principles, our values.
The Trump impact goes beyond Liz Cheney. Others who took stands against him, like Mitt Romney, are getting booed by fellow Republicans when they speak.
I wasn't a fan of our last president's character issues.
And in House races, Trump recently backed Susan Wright in Texas. She came in first in the primary. The anti-Trump candidate finished last.
If there's a Republican civil war, then Donald Trump keeps winning round after round. Trump is as strong as he has been in some time. 3 months or so after leaving office, he is a major force inside the Republican Party, and you see that play out at state, local, and national levels almost every day.
While that's good news for Trump and the MAGA base, the question is, what impact will this feuding have on the GOP's opportunity to reclaim the majority in next year's midterm elections?
Fights like this are just not productive. This is not where Republicans want to be spending their time in 2021 or 2022, fighting amongst themselves. They'd much rather take the fight to Democrats and pick up those seats that they need.
For now, it looks like the House cleaning won't end anytime soon, and Liz Cheney could be swept out of leadership. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Coming up, a procedural error puts a former Atlanta police officer involved in a deadly shooting back on the job. The fallout when Faith Nation returns.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, Explore effective remedies for sleep apnea and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
The Atlanta police officer who shot and killed an unarmed black man last summer in Atlanta has been reinstated. Garrett Rolfe, who is charged with murder in the shooting of Rayshard Brooks outside of Wendy's, was wrongfully terminated. This according to the Atlanta Civil Service Board. The board said Rolfe was not afforded due process in his firing. Rolfe will remain on administrative leave pending the resolution of a felony murder charge. Well, in the wake of a number of high-profile police shootings in 2020, President Biden is calling on Congress to pass police reform as early as this month.
Tamika Miller is one woman dealing with this on a very personal level following the death of her husband in Atlanta. In a recent interview with CBN's Eric Phillips, she explains why her faith in God will extract good from her family's tragic story.
I never thought that I would be a widow this young. It's been really hard. Up and down, I feel like my life has been a roller coaster, pretty much, but I keep the faith.
Tamika Miller says only faith has been able to sustain her these last several months.
It's hard. It's so hard not to be angry. It's so hard not to feel vengeance.
Now, there are just reminders of what continues to haunt Miller. It happened June 12th after police were called to this Wendy's in southwest Atlanta because 27-year-old Rayshard Brooks had fallen asleep in his car while in the drive-thru line. Video shows that after some calm conversation, officers gave Brooks a breathalyzer, determined he was intoxicated, and tried to cuff him. That's when the situation spun out of control. During a scuffle with officers, Brooks grabbed one of the officers' taser. He ran and looked back, pointing the taser as if he was going to shoot it. That's when Officer Garrett Rolfe fired 3 shots, 2 of them striking Brooks. He died at the hospital following surgery.
When they knocked on my door, they were telling me to identify my husband and that he had been murdered.
When she learned the details that her husband had grabbed an officer's taser, she was baffled.
What was it that made him feel in danger to grab it? In order for him to go to that extent, he felt in danger. This is right after George Floyd, and we watched this together. This is right after Breonna Taylor. Me and my husband, we watched those things. We kept tabs on stuff like this.
Adding to the tragedy, it happened the same week of their 8-year-old daughter's birthday.
She understood very well that her daddy wasn't going to make it to take her skating, and her daddy wasn't going to come back. There were so many promises that was made that wasn't kept because they took my husband.
Officer Rolfe was fired from the Atlanta PD and charged with murder. The other officer, Devin Brosnan, was charged with aggravated assault. Miller hasn't watched any of the body cam video from that night yet. She's still building up the courage. In the meantime, she doesn't want her husband's death to be in vain. It's why she took part in the March on Washington anniversary back in August, with many others who've experienced similar pain.
I want to see change. Change in policing. Change in our black men being scared of officers when they see them. Because most of them are scared. You hear sirens, I see them run, and they don't even know why they're running. They're just scared.
Atlanta pastor Jamal Bryant was there too.
The frustration of this generation is that we've not seen justice. The killer of Trayvon Martin is free. Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, all the way down, nobody has gone to jail. We're not declaring war on the police. We want the police to be accountable. We want somebody to be held responsible.
Miller says God is even using her tragic circumstance for good.
He's using me as a testimony to help someone else and let them know if I got through it, you can do the same. So I want people to remember to keep having faith in God and stay focused. Don't let people change you and make you bitter because of a tragedy. Don't become cold because of the hate that's going on right now.
I spoke with Tamika Miller after word of the officer's reinstatement. She says it's upsetting, but that she's trying to focus all of her energy right now on her young daughter's birthday, which is today.
She says it's the first birthday her daughter will celebrate without her father. I will be doing a one-on-one interview with Tamika Miller next week, and you could look for that here on CBN News. John, Jenna.
All right, Eric, thank you. Great interview, and we look forward to your next. And still ahead on Faith Nation, an unlikely dance duo tapping their way into people's hearts.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Finally tonight, still stepping in time and teaching others to do the same. 95-year-old Dorothy taught tap dance for her decades, and now she has a new student, John, almost a quarter her age.
That's right. It started with a little bit of role reversal. Sean, a 28-year-old physical therapist, started working with Dorothy to help her recover from a broken femur, and they quickly discovered a fun way to get her moving again. Look at them go. With Sean's help, Dorothy's recovering right on tempo and making videos for their fans. Dorothy's daughter shared the video on Twitter saying her mother's physical therapist had given her back the joy of dance and the joy of life. That is a perfect pair if you ask me.
Oh, she looks young. She looks great for 95.
Showing off a little bit too.
Yeah, no joke.
Well, that does it for tonight's Faith Nation.
Have a great evening.